So moving next to the renin angiotensin aldosterone system, that is, first of all, one you should know is renin. Renin, remember, it is a enzyme that is released by specialized cells that are present in the kidney from the juxtaglomerular apparatus. So when the sodium levels they are low. Now renin, it acts on the protein in the blood that is known as angiotensinogen, and it converts into angiotensin 1, which is a small protein. So the angiotensin 1, it travels through the blood to the lungs and the kidneys. Where an enzyme called angiotensin converting ACE, that is angiotensin converting enzyme, converts it into angiotensin 2. So angiotensin 2, it will stimulate the adrenal glands. Located on the top of the kidney to secrete the hormone that is aldosterone. So this aldosterone would increase the reabsorption of the sodium in the kidney tubules. So that means more sodium is kept in body instead of being lost in the urine. As a result, that can increase the blood pressure. Other is the ADH mechanism. ADH means anti-diuretic hormone, that is also known as vasopressin. So it is produced, this vasopressin, it is produced by the hypothalamus in the brain and stored in the pituitary gland. And it is released when the sodium level in the blood they are high or when the blood volume is low. Now what ADH do is, ADH helps the kidney to retain more water. That leads to more concentrated urine. So less means less water would be lost from the body. So water retention, that would lead to so these factors can lead to edema by retention of the sodium and the water. So when the blood volume is low, the kidney filter less blood, leading to less urine formation and more fluid retention. Now what are the causes of edema? They could be reduced glomerular filtration rate. When the blood volume is low, the kidney would filter less blood, that lead to less urine formation and more fluid retention. Other is increased filtration. Other is increased sodium resorption. The kidney resorb more sodium, that leads to less sodium and therefore less water being excreted in the urine. Third is increased filtration factor. When more fluid is filtered out of the blood in kidneys, that lead to fluid retention. Decreased capillary pressure. When there is reduced capillary pressure in the capillaries, that means there is increased resistance in kidney blood vessels that lead to more fluid being retained in the tissue. So it can lead to cardiac. Example of edema could be cardiac disease, liver disease like ascites, renal disease like glomerulonephritis, etc. So these are the various diseases. So cardiac diseases, they are seen in congestive heart failure, where heart cannot pump blood effectively, that leads to fluid buildup. In ascites, condition like cirrhosis, the liver cannot function properly, that causes fluid to accumulate. The third is the renal condition like nephrotic syndrome, acute glomerulonephritis. Here the kidney function is impaired, that lead to fluid retention and hence swelling and edema. Now the type of renal edema could be edema in the nephrotic syndrome. In the nephrotic syndrome, there is heavy loss of protein, especially albumin, in the urine. So that condition is known as proteinuria. So loss of albumin would lead to low albumin level in the blood. That would cause hypoalbuminemia. So low level causes fluid to leak into tissues, that would cause edema. So the body would activate the Raas system, and that will cause kidney to retain more sodium and water. That would worsen the edema. So here the edema is severe, generalized, that would affect both the subcutaneous tissue and the internal organ. Apart from that, you could see if the edema in the nephritic syndrome. So this cause of edema, it occurs in disease with here there is wide inflammation of glomeruli. So unlike nephritic edema is not due to low protein in the blood. So instead it is caused due to the kidney resorbing too much sodium and water due to activation of this Raas system. So this edema would be milder, and it will appear in the loose tissue like the face, around the eyes, ankles, etc. The third is edema that is seen in acute tubular injury. So this type of edema, it occurs when the renal tubules, they are damaged due to the shock or exposure to the toxic chemicals. The next is the cardiac edema, that the swelling that occurs in the heart failure, especially in the right-sided or congestive heart failure. So when the heart, it fails to pump effectively, so the amount of the blood the heart pumps out decreases. That leads to lower blood volume, that is hypovolemia. So that the body responds by activating again this Raas system and releasing ADH, that would retain sodium and water, that would lead to fluid retention as well as edema. So the main feature of cardiac edema is it appears in the lower part of body, like the legs and ankles. And patients who are bedridden, the edema can occur in areas like the lower back, buttocks, etc. Apart from that, fluid can accumulate in body cavity, like the abdominal cavity, that is ascites, and pleural cavity, there could be pleural effusion. Now this table, understanding this table, so first of all, here you should see the renal ischemia. That means there is reduced blood flow to the kidney. is the initial trigger that decreases the sodium. There is decrease in the sodium in the renal tubules. The kidney senses a low sodium in the renal tubules that would activate the renin that release enzyme that is this trigger the release of enzyme renin that is secreted by kidney. The renin it will act on angiotensinogen and convert into angiotensin 1 that is then converted into angiotensin 2 in the lungs by the enzyme ACE. So angiotensin 2 it stimulates the adrenal cortex to release aldosterone that would cause sodium and water retention. Other could be intrinsic mechanism. So low blood volume activates this pathway. The baroreceptors detects the low blood volume and pressure. The signals from baroreceptors it activates the vasomotor center in the brain that leads to increase in the sympathetic nervous system, and there is renal ischemia. So there is decrease in GFR. So the kidney excrete less sodium that lead to sodium and water retention. The third mechanism is ADH mechanism. So low blood volume trigger the release of ADH hormone. ADH it is released from the posterior pituitary and it increases the reabsorption of water in the kidney that reduces the urine output and hence retaining more water. So that lead to sodium and water retention. So this retention would finally increase the blood volume and the pressure. So excess fluid accumulates in the tissue that causes edema.